Welcome back to the podcast episode. We have Hans here with us as usual. We're going to talk today about Hans. Say the title. It's an interesting. I don't want to mess
It's
up
probably not
the
a good
title.
title if you can remember it for 15 seconds. Pressure of reality training versus, pressure of the
glad we
reality
have this recorded.
versus pressure of the training.
Okay, so pressures, basically
Yeah,
reality
pressure, right? How to induce the pressure.
Pressure of training reality
How to
versus.
transfer the pressure in training, how to generate the pressure in
Okay.
training, which then eventually the dog and the handler are going to encounter in everyday life.
Yeah, because there's two different things.
Reality.
Yeah. You always tell us we have tunnel vision when we train, which is
Which
is reality because it's
not when we train, but when we are on the street.
well, yeah, but you
During
know,
the training, we may not have that
yeah.
tunnel vision because we don't feel stressed. out
Well,
there.
but you're yelling at us at the same time sometimes, and the dog is barking, and it brings our focus more as narrower.
All right.
So,
well, basically, when I train with people, I try to put pressure on them, right? And people call me an asshole because of that, right? But actually, and I even had people quit my training, and it's probably my fault because I should have explained it up front a little bit. But once you're explaining to people that you're gonna put pressure on them, then the pressure is gone,
yeah, it's
right?
not. They
So
know
you
it's
gotta,
gonna.
they gotta be surprised by that pressure, right?
Yeah. No, that's a good point.
The point, the point of all this is that when you're on the street in a real life scenario, like a law enforcement officer, or even you as a private citizen, you're going to be exposed to a pressure, and your dog is going to be exposed to the pressure. And we act differently when we are under pressure, or dog acts differently when they're under pressure. It's a little easier to inflict the pressure on the dog, but the way the person behaves, the dog reads that, and if you are never under pressure during the training, dog doesn't know how to read you when you are under pressure, or he's surprised when you when you start getting a little rattled or upset or whatever, and he may fold it, or he may misunderstand the way you act. Okay, like I had a dog which did great in training, and then when he was in law enforcement, the dog would fail, right? And I even went there to see what the heck is going on because it was a good dog. And what was happening was the handler was going through divorce, and he would yell at his wife in our family arguments. Okay, I'm not gonna criticize her.
Yeah,
It's just that's what it was, right? They had arguments.
Yeah.
And then on the street, and the dog was participating in these arguments. I mean, not participating, but he observed these arguments. And then when the cop was on the street, and he would get himself into physical fisticuff fight with the bad guy. And he hit the door opener on his car and called the dog to come, and he started yelling at the bad guy, and dog ran away, hid under the school bus. And they said the dog is a piece of shit. But basically what happened was, when I analyzed it, is that the dog didn't like when he argued with his wife.
Okay.
And he would go and hide away because he loved his wife, same way as he loved him.
Yeah.
But when they had this altercation, he didn't understand it, and he would hide under the bed or in the closet or somewhere in the house.
Wow.
And so when he yelled the same tone of voice at the bad guy, the dog went into that mode. Right?
Wow, that's
Okay.
That's a Interesting.
And so that needs to be trained. First of all, when you have a personal protection dog, or really any dog, but specifically, most importantly, personal protection dog, try not to argue with your wife in front of it. Don't try to yell at people or anything like that in everyday life, unless it's just don't do it, okay? Because the dog, will
on a regular basis.
Because will get upset. Also, do not ever yell at the dog. When you get mad and you yell at the dog, then when you are mad at somebody else, let's say I used to have a dog, and this is another 30-some years ago. So I'm telling you, I screwed up, right? And dog did something wrong, and I yell at him. Hey, don't do that shit, right? And then I'm on the phone with somebody, right? On my cordless, I'm in front of the house, and I get in this argument with this person on the phone, and then I go in my house, and suddenly phone rings, and my neighbor calls me, hey, are you missing a dog? And my dog ran away, because he heard me screaming at this guy on the phone, so he thought I'm screaming at him.
Oh, okay.
Okay? So don't have, don't put, this is kind of, don't scare the dog by you being upset with him, right? Be fair, and you can say certain things, but, when you are correcting dog, let's say during obedience or doing something, you must not feel anger in your heart, which is hard sometimes, right? Or a lot of times. But that anger will permeate through your voice. So when the dog is doing something wrong, or you are arguing with your wife or with your friend or something, that attitude will permeate through your voice, and then when you are fighting a bad guy, the same attitude is going to come out, and the dog is going to think that he's doing something wrong.
Huh.
Right?
Interesting.
Yeah. So you gotta. So don't do it, or don't argue in front of your dog, and don't ever be angry with your dog when the dog screws up.
Yeah.
Never. If you feel that you are angry with your dog because he did something, we all get angry, right? Because dog did, just chewed up your, I don't know.
Yeah. The list is big.
Yeah. So you just bought yourself a $300 cowboy boots, right? Made out of ostrich skin or something.
The last ostrich on the planet.
Yeah, the last ostrich on the planet, and dog just chewed it up. So yeah, you get a little angry. You know what? Just take a deep breath. Just pick it up. Don't yell. Don't say. Don't cuss at the dog or at all. Just. And if you do obedience or some kind of other training and dog is not getting it, remember it's always your fault the dog is not getting it, right? So don't get angry at the dog. The only thing you can be only entity you can be angry at is you. But don't project it. Don't express it, rather, okay? Because it will project on the dog.
Yeah.
Right. So let's say dog does something wrong and you start feeling you get angry. Quit. Don't. In that moment, you gotta have that discipline to quit when you're getting angry, because if you don't have that discipline, it's gonna backfire on you when you need the dog most. Let's say in protection scenario, and you start being same angry at the bad guy.
Yeah.
Okay. That's one aspect of this pressure. The other aspect of the pressure is that when you train the dog, you will handle the dog different way when you are like in a park with a bunch of friends, right?
Yeah.
And a different way when somebody just shot at you in a real life scenario, right? Or somebody hit you with a fist in the face, right?
Yeah.
So and it's very hard in training to mimic that anger you will have in a real life scenario, but you need to try to mimic it.
If you enjoyed this content so far, please subscribe to our channel. Also, Hans has a podcast channel called Dog Training for Life. Check that out so you can listen to the audio version.
You're going to be scared, you're going to be stressed, and dog reads that. And if he doesn't read it during the training, when you're on the street, so to speak, and you suddenly have those emotions, dog doesn't understand and says, what's going on? Look at my master, he's all screwed up, right? I don't know what to do. I never have seen him like this.
Yeah.
I never practiced being like that,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah.
And a lot of it is also like, I had a handler, and she would encounter a bad guy, and there was a lot of people around. So I teach the handler, you know, to act certain way in training, right? But you know, because she was self-conscious in that scenario, she would not use the tone of voice and the way she stood and held the leash and all that the way she does in training.
Yeah.
Right? And the dog didn't know what to do.
Yeah.
Okay? So, you know, when I say alert coin, pozor, like this, and then I'm in training, and then I am in a real life scenario, and I say, hey, sir, would you please step aside, pozor? The dog has, you know, it's different.
Yeah.
You can speak Chinese to it. It's just completely, you know. So what we, when you train the dog for a real life scenario, you gotta make sure that you try to imagine how you are gonna feel in a real life scenario. So if you do it in training, I mean, you should try to imagine how you're gonna feel and try to mimic it.
Yeah.
Also, when you're training the dog, don't make it like, pozor, like you're happy.
Yeah.
Right? That's not gonna happen on the street.
Yeah.
Right? Try to think how you're gonna act when on the street.
Yeah, you always tell us this constantly, you know, when we train, and you. I know that sometimes you even tell the decoys too. That's another. We can do another podcast on decoy stuff, but tell the decoy.
So, and you can mitigate all this different way you handle the dog when in training compared to when you are on the street. We can mitigate it also by physical position. You stand certain way. I always emphasize, stay this way, do this, do that.
Judo move.
Right.
Yeah.
You know, just do, you know, try to, and then try, you know, and you get into this routine, you get conditioned so that when you are in that scenario, you kind of bridge it into the real scenario. It's another bridging thing, okay?
Yeah.
So you want to make sure that that you behave as close as possible to the
If it was a real.
to the real scenario. You know, I think I may have mentioned it somewhere else, but you know, this is a long time ago again, but we were in the desert, and I would when the person was commanding the dog to attack me, I was shooting at them, live ammo, right next to them. And you know, that put different attitude in you when suddenly you hear the bullet hissing and hitting the ground 20, 15 feet next to you. People say I'm crazy. Okay, well, that's been established a long time ago.
Yeah,
but you know, you know, and even that's still not the same thing, right? But you will act differently around the dog when you are scared and when you are practicing in a park, or in some kind of a training scenario, you know. And that type of real fear is hard to simulate in a real in training. You know, to replicate it. Replicate it in training. You know, I've done it, and I'm thinking to do it again. You know, one of the, to me, useful use of electric shock collar would be to put it on a handler, and when they handle the dog, just zap them periodically, you know, on full bore in the biceps, or you can put it on their neck.
There's a good use for the e-collar.
Yeah, there's a good use for e-collar. And you know, well, that will kind of put stress on a handler, right? And the dog, you know, so you treat the dog different way when you're expecting electric shock collar.
Stop shocking me.
Yeah,
there you go. There's your stress.
Yeah, and you start yelling at me and all that, and then we do protection. So the stress, rather than you yelling at the wife, you will be yelling at me. His wife, the dog will run away, when we do it with electric shock collar, you give the dog bite,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Right. So
Yeah.
so that stress. Another thing about stress is when you can mimic stress different way, right? Or fear. You can like in Arizona here we have a bridge called Sheep's Bridge, and I did protection and obedience on top of that Sheep's Bridge, and the Sheep's Bridge is pretty damn high.
Yeah.
It's middle of the desert. It was actually a bridge for sheep to move it across the river way back then, and the planks of the sheep bridge is narrow. What is it? Maybe 10 feet wide.
Yeah.
Right, and the planks, the flooring of the bridge, there are little gaps, so you can actually see through the floor all the way down into the river, and it's, I don't know, 200 feet high or something. It's kind of scary a little bit, and for dog it's scary, and so I go there and I do obedience there, and we did even protection there, right? So and the dog feels and he, stressed, and you're stressed, and so you teach the dog to work under that stress, right? So you try to simulate the fear in you and in the dog, which then leads to the bite work.
Yeah.
Okay, and then there is the theory of two stresses and all that. That's a completely different thing. Okay, and then also when you are training dog in a park, what I do is I have a guy, his name is Gus, right? And I'm not gonna say anymore. He's a great guy, and I said put pressure on the decoy, right? Or on the handler. Be decoy and push the pressure on the handler, right?
Yeah.
And he goes and he hits them with the fist as hard as he can in the chest, and the handler go, oh my God, and he knocks wind out of them and all that, right?
Yeah.
And I've been on the receiving end of it, and I'm old dude, so, but he hits you, hard.
Yeah.
And
You act differently all of a sudden.
suddenly say, hey, don't hit me, we're just training,
Yeah.
And dog says, hey, my master is scared, what the heck, right?
Yeah.
And so it's up to you to try to figure out how to induce fear in the handler, right? And then of course in the dog. Now with the dog we gotta be careful, and that's another aspect of the stress. Most just about all the training for sport and stuff is everybody emphasizes the dog has to be happy and all that horse shit, and beep, and and they for sport, let's say Schutzhund or something, where the dog is on a familiar area, kind of sports field and all that.
Yeah.
It's a routine, so there's no stress. So they perform.
Yeah. The performance.
Routine, which is trained not to be under stress. But then you see videos from WSA or something like. What do you call it? Like a Bundesliga or something like that. I don't know what the video was.
Premier League or Bundesliga.
And there was this guy from Holland, and he put a lot of stress on those dogs, and they never encountered that type of a stress in the training, and they failed. And people say, oh, it's genetics, poor genetics. No, it's poor training. The dog never encountered that type of behavior from a decoy or helper in sport, they call it. And so he failed. And that's the same thing when you are training for street. If the dog doesn't feel stress, doesn't feel pain, everything is fun. And then suddenly it's not fun because he got kicked in the head by the bad guy. What is the dog gonna do? So you need to induce a stress on the dog. But you gotta watch the dog, and you slowly escalate the stress. Higher and higher and higher, and more and more and more stress on the dog, the decoy puts on, and on the decoy, and on the handler,
Yeah.
and you build up the stress, so the dog gets eventually used tremendous stress because he's familiar with it.
Yeah.
And when we use the stress to our benefit, so the dog, we teach the dog. I'd say always teach the dog to fight, don't teach him to bite. So I teach the dog, hey, if somebody puts stress on you, only way you can win is if you put more stress on him, right? And we teach that dog
Yep.
that, okay?
Yep.
You know,
I've seen it.
and
so many times, yeah.
and you can get the dog to deal with tremendous amount of stress that way.
Yeah.
But as I said, you know, the real fear and all that, it's you know, especially for the handler, and it all transfers from the leash, from the handler to the
Yeah.
to the dog. So at first you at least try not to be too chummy and happy and
Yeah.
happy-go-lucky during the training.
Yeah.
Act like you're scared.
Yeah.
But then eventually, you know, you got to try to figure out ways to actually, if you're a trainer, to get the handler scared for real.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
you know, and
That's the hardest.
it's one of the things is like, you know, like you see a lot of times cops or whatever, they repel from helicopters with the dog, right? I did some repelling with dogs from helicopters, and I've done repelling from cliffs and stuff with the dog. And what we did, we would repel from the cliff or from the helicopter, and you can see those dogs were terrified. They thought, this is it, I'm dying now.
Yeah.
I used to have a picture. I was the guy is going backwards, leaning into the ropes, decoying. I mean, repelling, and he has a dog between his legs, and the dog is looking in the camera, and you can see in that dog's eyes this fear. I mean, we are going over the cliff. We're surely going to die. You know, he didn't understand that the ropes are going to not do that, right? But even a person who didn't repel that much, right? They're also scared. I was scared first few times, right? And so that's how you can induce a real fear. And then when you repel all the way down, you know, you have a decoy that come at you, right?
Oh.
After the dog got scared of the repelling. Fear is a fear, right?
Yeah.
And the dog also will read you as being scared, but he still does the job, right? So he now gets used to your fear, being scared, I mean, and his fear, being scared, right? And you slowly escalate those fears in the dogs, you know, so that they slowly learn to deal with it. And as a matter of fact, it's like a precursor to the attack command. And the dog then actually is doing much better, believe it or not better, but it's a different quality. You know, you can see the dog which is trained with no stress at all, and they kind of go for a ride, and maybe they even bored a little bit with it. But then when you put a real stress, like from repelling, or the handler got electric shock collar on him and all that, and they're scared now, right? Suddenly the quality of the dog's performance is completely different. Completely different. Like I noticed it when I was doing it in the desert, and I would shoot next to the canine team. You know, and I'm a good shot. I didn't hit anybody. But they were scared. You know, they were scared. And another thing is, you know, like you gotta understand. Speaking of gunfire, the gun, you know, they teach the dog to work around gunfire, and they use blanks. And you gotta understand, when the gun fires, there's more to the firing of the gun than just the sound. There's a shock wave. There's a hiss of the bullet through the air. There is the noise of the action of the slide of the handgun. There's a bullet hitting ground next to you or somewhere behind you. Right? All that you cannot mimic just with blank gun shooting blanks. That's just not enough. So you know, so I worked with these teams, and we use live ammo. You know.
But those dogs needed to
and
understand
everybody,
what
and the person was scared too. I mean, you know, I take AK-47 and I'm shooting next to 10 feet away from you in the dirt. That's pretty scary. I don't care who you are. You know, what about if it's crazy hunts now? Is not going to aim right, or,
Yeah, yeah.
or gets crazy and shoots me in the middle of my chest,
It's real, yeah.
right?
Yeah.
You don't know.
Yeah, yeah.
Now, you know, guys, this is just for entertainment purposes. Don't do this at home, okay? I'm serious.
Yeah.
Just don't do any of this stuff unless you really know what you're doing.
Yeah.
And even then, you know, I cannot really. I'm just telling you what I do.
Yeah.
You know, you do whatever you stay safe and
Yeah.
talk to somebody. You know,
that knows what they're doing.
what they know what they're doing, and let them direct you.
Yeah.
In other words, I'm putting the responsibility on you and the person who's supposedly supposed to know what they're doing,
Yeah.
not me.
Yeah.
You know,
You're not telling anybody to.
I don't want to live with that,
You're just
right?
telling your
So that's a legal disclaimer over here, right?
Yeah.
For me, you know what I mean.
Yeah.
So that's it. Different stresses, different positive and negatives of the stresses. Dogs will work different when you scream at your wife and dog is scared of you because you scream at the person he loves. And different stresses, you know, when you get angry and all that because somebody's shooting a little bit too close to that AK-47 right next to your foot, right? And that anger in you will project, and suddenly dog sees, hey, my boss is angry, so I'm angry, right? So there's different things. So you need to consider that. It's like a higher level of training, but as I said, for liability reasons, I'm just giving you my experience of what I've done, and the rest is up to you. You know. As a matter of fact, I'm telling you, don't do it. Don't ever do this. Okay? All right, that's all. Thanks.